going to work on our 4 quadrants, coordinate graphing. So if you would look in your notebooks, your interactive notebooks on page 45, you have the 4 quadrants. On quadrant 1, if you lift up the flap, you will see the positive x and the positive y coordinates. If you lift up the flap on quadrant 2, you will see a negative x and a positive y, those quadrants. If you lift up the flap on quadrant 3, somebody raise your hand and tell me what points you'll see. What x and what y? Rory.
Negative x and negative y.
Negative x and negative y. So if you flip that, you will see those points in quadrant 3. And finally, quadrant 4. Somebody raise your hand and tell me what points we'll see x and y. Angelina.
X and negative y.
X, positive or negative?
Positive.
Even though we don't have it marked positive, you just need to remember that it is a positive number because there's no negative. So if you lift the flap for quadrant 4, you'll see the positive x along the x-axis and the negative y on the y-axis. Okay, any questions about this before we do this on our own?
No.
Or together? Okay, so with your whiteboards, you have a graph just like I have. On the graph, we're going to mark some points together, and then I'm going to show you some points that you have, and then you're going to mark them on your own. So with your whiteboard marker, I want you to first, before you uncap it, keep it shut. First, use your whiteboard marker to just locate the 0 mark. So either with your finger or the marker, point to the 0. This is the origin. The origin is where we start. Remember, we start at 0 for every point that we plot. So the 0 mark is here. So I need to see your fingers or your whiteboard marker. Okay. Now, using your finger or your whiteboard marker, trace this line right here, the dark line right in the middle, going horizontally. Okay? This is either way, with the marker or your finger. This is the x-axis. Everybody say x-axis.
X-axis.
Natalie? There you go. Okay, now with your finger or your whiteboard marker, trace this line going vertically. Got it, Giancarlo? This is the y-axis. Everybody say y-axis.
Y-axis.
Okay, so the points that we start with are always our x points, or x-axis points. Then we move up or down for our y-axis points. So the first point that we're going to plot on here, that you guys are going to plot with me, is the point, and I'll write it down here first so you can see it, the point 1, dash 2, or comma 2. So these are the ordered pair 1, 2. So on your whiteboard, you're going to first use the x-axis as 1, the y-axis as 2. So, let me move it down so you can see a little bit better. Kevin, which is the number that is our x number? Or x coordinate?
2.
Which comes first?
1.
1. Which is the coordinate, Kevin? This will be your repeat. What is the coordinate that is our y number? 2. So we're going to go first positive or negative on the x-axis, and then positive or negative on the y-axis. So what number are we moving to on the x? 1. So put your finger at 1, or your whiteboard marker. And then we're moving how many spaces up? Irene?
2.
2. 1, 2. So our point is going here. So with your whiteboard marker, actually mark this spot.
Oh, all right.
Okay? The next point we're going to plot, and this is a good point to add. Mariana gave us a good idea that we should label each coordinate on your whiteboard. So we had it on our notebook, but let's label it here. So this one is what quadrant?
Quadrant
1. So let me write it in. So quadrant 1. Irene, which one is quadrant 2? To the left, down, below it? Which quadrant
To
2?
the left.
To the left. Everybody likes to say that.
What?
To the left, to the left.
To the left.
Okay. Quadrant 2. Then, Isidro, which one is quadrant 3? Below it, to the right, down, below, right below. Quadrant. And then that finally leaves us with the last one.
Quadrant 4.
Over here. Quadrant. Perfect. So now that these are labeled, we already know, based on our prior knowledge in our notebooks, that quadrant 1, can you answer that? Quadrant 1 is only positive numbers. Quadrant 2 is positive and negative. Quadrant 3 is both negatives. And then quadrant 4 is positive and negative. Right, Emmanuel? Got it? Okay. So the next point that we're going to plot
Now we go to commercial break.
Good things. I'm not sure. Can I give you a call right back during our break? Okay. At 10 o'clock. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So the next plot we're going to point is in quadrant 2. I'm going to tell you that already, so you already know where we're looking. But if you didn't, you would know that our x would be positive, our x would be negative, because we're moving over here, and our y is going to be positive. So we have negative, plot negative 7, 3. So, Emmanuel, which way are you moving on the x-axis again? Right or left? Left. To the left, to the left. So, we're moving 7 spots to the left. And then, Sebastian, are we moving, based on this point, 3, are we moving up or down? Up. How many spaces? 3. 1, 2, 3. So, plot point 7, 3. Right there, negative 7, 3. Now, the next one, in quadrant 3, what are our 2 points going to be? Positive, negative, 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 positive. What are they going to be, Ava? Negative, negative. So, quadrant 3 is negative, negative. And I'll put that here. So, the point that you're going to plot in quadrant 3
God bless you.
is negative 10,
And 5.
negative 5. So, Amani, negative 10, negative 5. So, Brianna, are we moving to the right or to the left for this?
Left.
To the left? To what point?
10. Negative 10.
Negative 10. Good catch. And then, Santos, are we moving up or down? Down to what point?
5.
Which one? Negative 5. Negative 5. Remember, when we're plotting points and when we're using integers, you have to say the positive or the negative. Because now we're going into the negative integers, and you have to know, because if you said 5, we'd go negative 10 up 5, and that would be a completely different quadrant, right? So negative 10, negative 5, plot that point. There we go. And our last quadrant, quadrant 4, is going to be what? Mariana?
Positive and negative.
Positive x, negative y.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, on this quadrant 4, the point that we're going to plot is positive 9, negative 4. So, last point that you're going to plot together with us as a class, and then I'm going to give you some for you to do on your own. So, 9, negative 4. Got it? I see some people that have it. Brian, get this down.
9, negative 4.
Yes, positive 9, down negative 4. Amani, get it? You're in the wrong quadrant. Move over 1.
Amani.
Sorry, Diani.
Oh.
Quadrant 4. Got it, Angelina? Got it, Irene G? Okay, so 9, negative 4. Which way are we moving on the x-axis? Somebody raise your hand. Ava.
I mean, right.
Wait, or did you say to the right? Okay. Yes, to the right, to what number?
9.
9. So I'm moving my finger and my whiteboard marker to 9, to the right on the positive X, and then what number, up or down? Irene G.
Down.
Down to what?
-4.
-4. So 9, -4, right here. Okay, so we know that that is in quadrant 4, so 9, -4, right there. Everybody got that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so based on our quick review of our interactive notebook and doing this together, does anybody have any questions on how to do this? If I were to give you a worksheet, there is one thing that I think I am gonna mention, because there are some questions that will come up about a half number. So they're gonna give us a decimal, and we're gonna have to look for that decimal based on the number line that we have. So the graph that we have. Question.
So when we're using graphs, we're gonna use decimals too.
Yes, because they're going, and most of them, I'll tell you right now, most of them are half points, like 9.5. So it will be pretty easy. If we have a 9.5, we're looking at the middle between 9 and 10. Does that make sense? We'll review it. Let's review it. Okay, so in quadrant 1, we have, Emmanuel, are you paying attention? Yes? Okay, let's just focus on quadrant 1 for now, because it's easier, because it's both positive numbers, X and Y. So let's look at positive 5.5 and up 3.5. 3.5. Okay, so let's do this together before you plot it, before you look to where it goes. Let's plot this together. So 5.5. Put your finger. No, it's a 5. I wrote a 4, but it's a 5. So 5.5. So use your finger or your whiteboard marker. We know this is our X value. We know we're moving on our X axis for the first number. So let's use our whiteboard marker or finger and move over to 5, because that's the whole number that we come to first. Okay? Then, Emmanuel, please pay attention. Then we're looking at the halfway mark. So if we have our finger on 5, we're looking at the halfway mark before we get to 6, because we're not to the whole number 6 yet. Giancarlo, turn around. We're right in the middle. So with your whiteboard marker, just make a tiny little mark right in the middle between 5 and 6. That's going to be our halfway mark. So I'm going to do that here. Just a tiny little mark. So I know where to approximate my point when I go up. Everybody got that?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to go up 3.5. I know this looks like a funky 5, but 3.5. So use your whiteboard marker, your finger again. Move up to 3. Everybody got that? Irene? Thank you. Move up to 3 with your finger or your whiteboard marker. And then we're going to go halfway, because 5.5 is in between 3 and 4. So we're going to go halfway right here in the middle. 3.5. Between 3 and 4. Make a tiny little mark with your whiteboard marker right in between 3 and 4 here, so we know where to approximate our point. Now, Emmanuel, you should have 2 visual points that you can connect. We have this one and this one. We're going to come right to the middle of where they intersect, and we're going to make our point. So this is the easiest thing, tracing with your fingers, using your whiteboard marker since you have your whiteboards in front of you. Approximating where that point is going to land, right in the middle of that square. Okay? So I'm going to put my point right here, right in the middle. Yep, lines up with this one, lines up with this one, right in the middle. And because you're not using your paper or something that's more permanent, you're using your whiteboard marker, if you miss that mark and wrote it up or down, you can always erase it. Just use your finger, erase it, and put it in the proper spot. Yep, right inside the box. Any questions? So let's do a practice problem that way, and then I'll give you the work that you're going to do on your own, but let's try one more just so we can get this, because this is kind of a new topic. So let's try one more. And I'll put it in quadrant 1 just so we can just work on that and practice it. So we're still going to be working with two positive numbers, x and y. And we'll do positive 9.5 and positive 5.5. Okay, so positive x, positive y in quadrant 1. You do it yourself and let me see if you got it. Oh, got it? If it would be a negative, we do it just the same. Just put it in the correct quadrant.
My marker's running out ink.
Do the best you can. Yes, got it? Got it? Brianna, you got it?
No.
Almost there? Got it? Yep. Got it? Perfect. Okay, so let's see. Which way are we moving on our x-axis? Somebody raise your hand and tell me which way, positive or negative, we're moving. Positive, so to the right. To what number? To 9 first. He had it, you had it right. The thinking was there. To 9 first, and then where? Which is exactly halfway between 9 and 10. So 9.5, I'm going to draw my little line so I can visualize it. 9.5. And then up or down on our y-axis. Somebody raise your hand and tell me up or down on your y-axis. Kevin? Up to what number?
5.
5 first to visualize it, and then where? Let me have somebody help you. Hold on. Mariana.
In the middle of 5 and 6.
Right. Can you explain to Kevin why we're going to put it right in the middle? What is our decimal?
5.
0.5, right?
Yes,
Right in the middle.
exactly.
Kevin, does that make sense?
Yes.
So right in the middle of 5 and 6, 5.5. So I'm going to put my little mark so I can see it, visualize it. Matthew? I'm going to take my fingers so I can kind of approximate right where it's going to go. Right in the middle of this square. Angelina? Focus on this. So, 9.5, 5.5, right in the middle. Right here. Everybody mark that point. Matthew, if you didn't get it. Emmanuel, if you didn't get it. Mark that point right here. 9.5, 5.5. Over on the x-axis, 9.5 points. Up on the y-axis, 5.5 points. Okay, quick check. How do you feel about this? Good? Kind of good? Need more help? Good? Kind of good? Need more help? It's okay to be honest. Yes, question.
Like for the regular one, but like the decimals, kind of like throwing me off. Like the 9.5.
These ones?
I get that.
Did it make sense though to go to the whole number first? And then go in between? So first go to the whole number, and then go in between?
Oh, yeah.
Yes? Emmanuel?
Can
we do a
negative one?
A negative decimal?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do a negative decimal first. Alright, so both negatives, so we're going to end up in quadrant 3, Emmanuel. So both negatives, let's do negative 2.5, negative 3.5. So both negatives, we're going to end up in quadrant 3. Right here. Both negatives, x and y. Yeah, try it by yourself first, and then we'll go. Got it?
Got it.
Thumbs up if you got it already. We'll give you like 30 more seconds. Thumbs up if you got it. 30 more. Brian, you got it? Almost. Brian's doing what we just worked on. He's tracing the points that he made. Nice job. Okay, so let's try it. Amani, where are we moving on the x or y axis? To negative 2 first, and then where? So I'm going to move to negative 2 first. right here, in the middle of -2 and -3.
Yes.
Got that, Makari?
Yes.
Nice job. All right, Makari, are we moving up or down on the y-axis for this number?
We're moving down.
Down. To what whole number?
3.
3. So, let me put my mark there so I don't have to keep my finger there. So -2.5 goes here. Okay, so then, Makari, down to 3. And then where does this 0.5 put us? Between what two numbers? Matthew, can you help him out since you were questioning this? Where does this 0.5 put us? We're at 3.
Okay,
Are we moving between 3 and -3 and -4?
no, -3, -5.
No, between -3 and -5 will be -4. We're looking for just this number, 0.5. We're here at -3. Makari already told us to be there.
-5.
No, you're hearing somebody wrong. Mari, I'm gonna help him out. -3 and
-4.
-4, right in between.
What are you talking about?